Hello, everyone. I am related to royalty, uh, queens, kings, presidents, blood related. They're 13 times removed, but they are my relatives. And what I was doing was looking for something, and then all of a sudden, this thing popped up, and it says you're related to Queen Victoria of the United Kingdom. And I'm like, this is BS. They just want me to click on it so that I can, probably ask me to have a 7-day free and then to register. Oh no, no. Way back when, um, on Ancestry, I had started looking for my relatives because we are the descendants of slaves, according to my mother. She's always told me that, and she's always explained that my brothers and sisters' names and my name, uh, one comes from the father's side of the family, our father's side, and one comes from our mother's side of the family. So here on Ancestry, what date was that? May 31st, right here, May 31st, 2021, up in the corner. Gotta get it right. I was looking just to see who, what do you mean I'm related to Queen Victoria from the United Kingdoms? That can't be. Prince Edward Augustus Hanover, Duke of Kent and Strathearn, Mary Stuart, Countess of Arran, James Hamilton, First Lord Hamilton, and then there's 13 generations down before you get to my mother, and then me. I told you guys I was born a slave. A lot of people don't believe me. I'm 56. Yes. So I flip it back and I take a screenshot, and damn if I'm not related to these people. Hamburger and French fry. You start up here and you work your way down, and then on the other side you work your way down, and you get to little old. It's more along the lines of this. There's me, my 2 children, and then my parents above me. So I'm looking at this thing and I'm checking it out, and I'm like, this is, they just want me to click on it to get the thing, and absolutely, completely wrong. I am literally related 13 times removed. But I told you my family was slaves, and we weren't sold by Africans. We were sold. There's a period in between when slavery was allowed, and then slavery was abolished, 1779 through the 1800s. Slavery was abolished. The only way you could get a slave is you sold a slave on the black market, because Spain, the Dutch, Europe, they had all stopped. And in America, there was no slavery yet. So the slavery in America, it started from the pirates who used to steal slaves and then bring them over. And that's the difference. That's why I'm telling you, my relatives had land. They left me and my relatives land, which would have passed down the family, because wait till you see who else I'm related to. Blood related, not it is 13 generations down. And as the generations go, they say removed. They don't mean it's not blood related. They mean it's 13 generations later. These are your blood relatives. So, as I said, I went through and I started at the top. I made it a little bigger so that I could see it. I know you can't read that. And it turned out to be 4 pages. And where you see these circles, like this one, this one, this one, this one, those are titles, the titles of people. And this is how I wound up being related to all the other people I'm going to show you that I'm related to. But then, because you know they had a slave side and they had a the white side, the Asian side. But this is still in my relatives, in my relationship to Victoria of the United Kingdom. I'm also related to Queen Elizabeth and the Spencers and another king. All right, so you go down again and you see that the side that I'm on, and the ones that are lit up are who was married to whom and how they get down to me. So this lady right here, her name is Lucy Harris. Lucy Harris and her spouse, Higason Grubbs, had a daughter, Elizabeth Sally Grubbs. That's her. Elizabeth Sally Grubbs and her spouse, David H. Harris. That's her spouse. So I'm trying to read, but I can barely read from the side. And then when you go down again, these two had David H. Harris. His spouse was Nancy N. Henry. I guess I should have really started up here at James Harris at the top, because James Harris married Nancy Harris, or Nancy Harris. Mary Harris married James Harris, and then they had Lucy Harris, who married Harrington Briggs, and then the rest of what I said. Then when you flip it over, those two had Thomas Burnett, who married Margaret Johnston. And then they had John Burnett, and he married someone named Lucretia. They don't know when she was born, and they don't know her last name, but she died in 1709. The two of them had John Burnett, and then he married Amy Gatewood. Amy Gatewood and him had Anne Elizabeth Burnett. Now we're getting to, and then William Harris. And these two were married, because they're showing this one. They're actually showing you the spouse. And then they had Burton Cornelius Harris, and that is who my brother, who was in the armed services, is named after. Elizabeth Williams and him, they had David W. Harris. His spouse was Annie Louise Jackson Harris. My sister's name is Plummer Louise. She's named after the grandmother. And then those two had Martha Erlene Harris, my mother, and then she was my father. Booker T. Peoples had me. Direct line. It's a direct line. So I'm going to flip it back. We're going to start with James Hamilton, who married Mary Stuart. You have heard plenty of movies about the king and the queen. Then those two venture off over here. Elizabeth Hamilton is the daughter of these two? Well, Robert Hamilton is the son. And Robert Hamilton, who was a slave owner, had kids by his slaves. And ta-da. Okay, so then Elizabeth Hamilton, she had a son, John Stewart, who married Isabel Stewart, Elizabeth Isabel Stewart. So these two up here had two kids, him and her, and that's his kids that ends with me. Well, actually, it ends with my son and with my daughter, and then with their son and their daughter. um, and then those two had Matthew Stewart. Matthew Stewart married Margaret Douglas. I'm not going to do this for each one, but I am going to do it for this first one. And then the two of them had a son, George Louis the first of Great Britain. Sophia Dorothea von Brunswick was the spouse of my cousin. You drop down again and you get George II Augustus of Great Britain. He got married to Caroline Wilhelmine von Brandenburg. This is important in a minute. Then you drop down again, and the son of these two is Frederick Louis of Great Britain and Augusta van Sachsen Gothberg or something. It cuts the name off. Those two got married, and then they had George II of the United Kingdom, and then Sophie Charlotte von Mecklenburg. They got together, and then they had Henry Stewart. Henry Stewart got married to Mary Stuart, and then they had a son. His name is James IV, and the first king of Scotland. See, kings and that's the one that's my relative. Well, he got married to Anne of Denmark. And this is how we get to have me being related to the other people. Okay, the two of them got together and they had a daughter, Elizabeth Stewart. Well, Frederick II was her husband. And then the two of them got together. They had a daughter, Sophie Dorothea. My middle name is Doris. Sophie Dorothea von der Pfalz. And then she married Ernest Augustus of Brum. Oh, wait, this is again. Y'all nasty marrying the same people. Braunschweig or whomever it is. But anyway, it is her that is my cousin. That is my cousin. Her that is my cousin. And then she married this one. Whose name I could have swore I said before already. Maybe it's a relative of some sort. Okay, and then the two of them had a son. Two of them had a son, and then the two of them had a daughter. And this is the queen. So the son got married to Mary Louise Victoria von Sachsen Coboltz or Coboltson. The name is cut. And then Coburg. And then two of them had a daughter, Victoria of the United Kingdom. That's my cousin. And then she got married to Albert of Saxe-Coburg. She passed away in 1901. So after that, yes, I'm sure, because this is family tree. This is not ancestry. And what happened? What happened is they deeded away the land. And this is James Harris will probate, September 1792, Albemarle, Virginia, which is where my mother comes from, my father. And not only is it in the will how they name everybody and who got married and who left what to whom. They even have someone named Morning Maupin in here. See that name right there? Morning Maupin. And I'm probably saying it wrong. Maupin. It says the estate was not appraised. Executor is the wife Mary and the sons Thomas, Joel, and Nathan Harris. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is the people before my Harris family. But the slave owners that owned us, impregnated us. And then this one specifically, and it tells you who it's sourced by. Now, I was just looking for my brother because I was watching a movie called Black Pioneer, and at the end of the movie, what's his name? Green Flake, Green Flake, Flake. Green Flake looks so much like my brother that I'm like, oh my God. This has to be my eldest brother that was in the army. This has to be him. And he married someone. Green Flake married Martha Crosby. And then there's a Lucinda Flake, a James Flake, the prophet Benjamin Young, and the Bishop Willie, his grandson. These events were done based on true events. The story was done based on true events. So I was looking up that, and then this popped up, and it said, well, guess who you're related to? This literally tells you who was born, where the reference comes from, that Crabtree name, that Harris name that you see in there, married Sarah, and they had kids, and then they list the names and the dates and everything. So everything is sourced. Like tonight when I put my information in, I put, for my kids and my grandkids, they are my kids and my grandkids. So that's how you know. And we're back to Nancy Harris up the top. And then they give you the breakdown, and it shows you where the information came from. And it's very exciting. It's very exciting. And it gives you the source of the information. More breakdown on the source of it. So I showed you all this to say, and then what I do is I put the notes in for myself with the date that I entered the search, and then I write who I am, so that when they look at the record, they know that an actual person wrote it. I have my phone number in there in case a relative looks it up and they want to do a search. And then they ask you that you can add labels in it. And it asks you to, what were you looking for? While I was looking, I literally was looking for my eldest brother, Burton Cornelius Harris, Martha Crosby, Lucinda Flake. See, the people from the movie. That this is why I was doing the search in the first place. And then the other stuff popped up. Why did that stuff pop up? I don't know. But this is the reason, and the date. It should say the 17th, not the 16th. And this is what popped. And from here, we went on. So it says, guess who else you're related to? Where's my pointer? President George Washington. August Robert Norman Ross. Claiborne or Claiborne. I didn't print it out. I'm also related to Francis Ethel Gum. Francis Ethel Gum is known the world over as Julie Garland. Yes, she is my cousin. This stuff part doesn't, it was surprising, but not surprising, because I knew that these people were related. Again, just didn't know that they were related to me. But I knew the government owed me and my family money, because my mother, she made sure this next person, you might be able to see the name. Diane Frances Spencer. Oh, it gets better. Blood cousin. Blood cousin. Randolph Henry Spencer Churchill. Yeah. The Right Honorable Sir Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill is my cousin. And then, you know, it's 11 generations on this side. And then Catherine Kerr is 10 generations on that side of blood relatives, because they married each other to keep the goods and the money and the land within the family. So as they had sons, the sons picked a wife, and sometimes the wife they picked was directly related to me, and sometimes it was the brother or the grandson of whomever had that directly is related to my mother. All of this is on my mother's side. None of it is on my father's side. The next person is Edward Elliot, is my relative. Henry Durrell Ball, a relative, a blood relative of mine. And then he had this lady right here, one of my favorite people, Lucille Desiree Ball. Y'all should know this. You should expect this, because I think everybody knows that he's related. He's related to them. So that makes him related to me. But you should know, here's the family tree. Here's the family tree. Hold on. Here's a look, a glimpse at the family tree. I'm down here. He's right there. And this is the whole family tree. I'm related to Robert Harris Sr., who is brother to Mary Claiborne, who is brother to Edward Rice. 8 generations later, Gladys Love Smith had Elvis Aaron Presley, my cuz. We kind of look alike, right? Walt Elias Disney. Again, not surprising because my family is due reparations. And their family had the land that was passed down, and they just cut us out of it. And the government, my family tried to get it. The government cut us out, cut them out. So I didn't get what was supposed to be passed down to me from Britain, United States, Britain, uh, Queen Elizabeth, or the United States. Um, Susan Bromwell Anthony, you all know her as Susan B. Anthony, is my cousin, 8th generation cousin. And nobody is surprised at this. That's why I'm put a last. 12th cousin from Sir William Lenoyne LaHunt. Lenoyne LaHunt. Anne Walgrave. Had Sarah Ann Delano. She got married to the Roosevelt, and he became president. I don't know why this is coming up, the relatives of how it gets down to me. I traced all the way back my ancestry last year when I did this, because it took me a long time to find it because I had to make sure the dates and the names and Concord, North Carolina, all of that had to line up. So it took me a long time to figure out who all these people were. And then I got exhausted and I said, this is not easy to do because, you know, they bring up a whole list of names of everything and anything. And you can just get lost looking through so many names. But what thing is good that my mother told me is that because they owed us land and they never gave it to us, they stole it from us. The government took our land. I don't know about other people, but the government actually took our land and gave it away. But the thing that my research led me to for my maternal and my paternal was where I put G's all over. It's great, 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 great. And then I got exhausted and I stopped. My brother's name is Booker T. And those names were passed down. And my parents specifically named us that so that if someday, and that's why I wanted to pass my name down to one of my grandkids, but my children wouldn't do it. So if something had happened to me, excuse me, and you go to put a stake of claim, you're not carrying the name. We couldn't carry the titles. We couldn't carry because we were slaves. We couldn't carry any of that stuff, but we were able to carry the actual names of the slaves, the men that married them. In my family, there's inventors, pastors, people in the army, even my brother Burton Cornelius. They were names that they're not everyday names in this day and age or in that day and age. They're not everyday names. And so they named us one name after the relatives on our father's side and one name after the relatives on our mother's side, except for my one sister, Zoanne. She's named after a celebrity tennis player from 1958 because they kind of ran out of names. The story is told to me from my sister. And so she said that's what my mother told her. Anyone who gives reparations, this should be based on lineage. And then some people will say, well, you don't have any proof. You don't have anything. Yes, I do. I have a certified abstract of a marriage certificate and showing who married whom. And right here, Lena Crump, Rob Stanton, could be pronounced Staten, because what happened is you have Dora Daniels, the bride, and the groom is John V. Stanton. And then it lists who the parents are of John V. Stanton. Well, the parents are Robert Stanton, and Lena Crump. Right in my line. And then they married off. And see, it says here, previously married. So he was previously married once, and then she was previously married twice. So I have the certificate. Because Lena Crump is Lena Crump Stanton, in case anybody had figured that out. Booker T. Peoples, Concord. Oh, you can't even see it. I'm sorry. Booker T. Peoples, Concord, and Plummer Stanton. So it's Lena Stanton allowing Booker T. Peoples to marry Plummer Stanton. That was our grandmother. And my sister is named after my grandmother. And so I just highlight, and who the witnesses were is highlighted down here. And the date, sneaky little people. My father was born September 11th, one day before me. So that means that she was already 3 months pregnant. Because they got married on, and then this is, again, back then, what they called you when they asked you what your age was. My grandfather was 22. My grandmother was 19. And colored. See? C-O-L, colored. And the same thing with hers, C-O-L, colored. That says race. That's what they called you back then. You weren't black. This black was made up by capitalists, black and white. And then it says that Benjamin Peoples and Estelle Peoples, both living in Southern Pines, and that Robert Stanton and Lena Stanton were both living in Concord. And they allowed them to get married on March 19th, 2024. Well, my father was born in September. And they said he was significantly older than my mother, who was born 1930. So that's 6 year difference. Let me see. 1908 is the date of birth. This is for William Taft Stanton. And I looked at it at first and I said, oh, no, this is not mine. But yep. It says the deceased was Carabas County, and the sex is male. He's black. The date of birth was October 20-something, 26, 27, 28 of 1908. The date of the death was August 18th, 1990. Is that 93 or 73? Okay, yes, August 21st, 1973. They have it typed out. And then it says that it was Carabas Memorial Hospital inside the city limits of Concord, North Carolina. And it says married or never married. Married. Who is the surviving spouse? Gloria Staten. And then it has her address. Then it has, on here, it even has her social security number, or his social security number, and that he was a laborer. And then it says, who are his parents? His parents are Robert Staten and Lena Crump. And then it says, informant's name and address. Well, the person who gave this information was Gloria Staten, and they put the address again. And now it says, what was the the Board of Health covered? Cause of death. Ready? Immediate cause says something of the lungs. It looks like anemia, but I know it's not. But I can't make it out. But something of the lungs. I don't know it. It looks like anemia of lungs. Leukemia or anemia, one or the two. And then when it says cause, all of that is left blank, and it's signed off by the certificate person at 2:50 a.m. The date it was signed was August 18th of 1973. There was a burial signature of the funeral director, and the embalmer signed it. Signature of the registrant, they signed it, and that's all the stuff that I'm reading at the bottom. At the bottom here. It's very interesting. And then this one is a certificate of death for Lena Crump. Here. Right here. Lena Crump. It's really crazy because she had an acute coronary infection, acute. And then it says coronary bronchitis, or her cause of death. Coronary bronchitis. I kind of studied it. Bronchitis, yeah, or something like that. And so then it says cause of death, anemia, cause undetermined. I don't understand that. Right here, cause undetermined. Anemia, cause undetermined. This was December of 1965, December 2nd. I was born in 67. So, and she died a couple of years before I was born. So it all matches up. Again, it's in Concord, North Carolina, where my folks is from originally. Cabarrus, North Carolina. Cabarrus, North Carolina, was the usual place of residence. It was also the place of death. The city town was Concord. The full location was the Memorial Hospital, Calabarrus Hospital, wherever that is, on Hilltop Avenue, 240 Hilltop Avenue, street address. Name of deceased, Lena Crump Staton. Date of death, 11/28/1961. She was female, and back then they called you Negro. Date of birth, March 9th, 1885. She was 80 years of age, and she was a widow, housewife, U.S. citizen. Her father's name was Gerance Crump. Her mother's name says do not know. Husband's name is of Robert K. Staton. So when I looked at this, and I was like, oh, this is a little confusing, but that's her father's name. her husband's name was Robert, my relative, Stanton. And then, yeah, that's what she died. But as you can see, right back here, back in the 1800s, when we were still slaves, you were called a Negro. You were not black. You were not white. You were not Spanish. And it says she's female. And so people say, oh, I don't want to call myself black. They finally made us stop calling us Negro. Some people would rather be called a slave Negro. It makes no sense. We would call black people because they let us become part of society. Well, actually, I'm Nigerian, and on the other side of my family, Blackfeet Native American. So yeah, I'm very proud to be black, a black American. Here are my other relatives. And it makes sense because they're all related to each other, and they all worked in the United States presidency and try and find your ancestors. Um, they populated the world. They did, and they stole a lot of patents, inventions, and then they destroyed the towns for that Black people like my ancestors who were very affluent made. They destroyed the towns, the actual towns that we built with our hands to pass down to our loved ones and to pass it on. And so they owe the reparation because the United States government benefited from it and they still are benefiting from it. It's not like it's something in the past. And if they can take $20 million a day for 20 years and spend it on the war in Afghanistan, they can pay the American people money for the people. At least for the 3 years of my administration. The last year, no, I have to pay some bills with that. But giving the money to the American people is so that we come out of poverty. Is so that we get because we're not inflation, the supply and demand. You can wait for that, but in my administration, no, we're going to pay Americans because we've been paying other countries for since 1845. We've been taking taxpayers' monies and helping other nations and helping other countries and telling the American people that, oh, don't you ask for your own tax dollars back. You shaming the American public to not want to ask for their money back. And no more, not in my administration. Should the American people elect me as president. So I am going to go. I'm going to be traveling and I'm going to be on the road and I'm going to say goodnight. Interesting background. Interesting relatives.